You're raised as an athlete to fight back. So why all of a sudden when you retire do you stop the good fight?
This is Finding Center with Nick Hardwick.
And so I think that anxiety is common for humans to experience. Only sociopaths don't experience anxiety.
Gotcha.
They are able to do terrible things and not feel anxiety. And they need adrenaline to feel. And they need, in a way, cruelty or exploitation to feel anything.
Gotcha.
But why is anxiety increasing? I think our world is changing very quickly. And many people feel unease. Our political situation, whether you're Republican or Democrat, it is highly toxic compared to where it was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yes.
And the economy is changing. It's booming, but not everybody
gets to participate in it. Life, it is such a wonderful experience, and without health, we can't enjoy all that it has to offer. If you haven't heard, our family has a new supplement line with our name on it. We are so proud. Check us out at hardwick.life. It's like hardwick.com, but instead of .com, it's .life. We have been taking these exact pharmaceutical-grade supplements for several years now. We are waiting on our shipping and fulfillment process to get up to the quality and the standard that we expect and that you expect, and now it's on point, and we can't wait for you to try. We love the enhanced immunity they offer all of us. I put my body through the ringer with football. I love knowing that I'm doing everything in my power today to ensure that I'm giving myself the best chance possible to live that fulfilling life along with my family. Check out these pharmaceutical-grade products and new family-friendly recipes posted all the time, both on our Instagram and online at hardwick.life. Hardwick.life, foundational elements for a fulfilled life. Check them out. Hey, gang, thanks for the time. If you follow our stories on Instagram at Nick Hardwick, then you already know I post almost every meal that I eat. I do that to show that health and maintaining a fit and active body and lifestyle, it's no trick. It's consistently making good choices. One thing I put into my body since the company was founded in 2017 is Bubs Naturals, collagen protein, and MCT oil powder. One way or another, I've used Bubs religiously, daily. I swear by it. You're going to love it. As of so many people that have taken me up on that recommendation, I ran into a lady at the supermarket the other day. She stopped me. She goes, "Oh, my God, I love Bubs." Couldn't help but smile and say, "Hey, I do too." No other collagen brand can claim to be 100% NSF certified, and they donate 10% to charity. How many companies can claim that? If you're in the San Diego area, Bubs products now available at Barron's Market. Stop in and pick yours up. If you don't have a Barron's near you or don't want to go to the store right now, order it online at bubsnaturals.com. You can also check out their blog for creative recipes at bubsnaturals.com. Use the code HARDWICK15 for 15% off your order. All right, gang, while you're waiting this out at home with us, you can still have some fun betting at betonline.com. With no NBA, NHL, or NBA, you might be thinking there's nothing to bet on, man, but you're wrong. BetOnline still has hundreds of places to wager, including their online casino with poker and blackjack. And sports aren't totally done. There's still MMA, American Idol, the elections, the spelling bee, and their $750,000 poker series. There's still fun to be had, so go to betonline.ag and use the promo code MyPod100. That's MyPod100 to receive your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Again, that's betonline.ag and use the promo code MyPod100. BetOnline. The fun never ends. Hey guys, welcome back to the Finding Center podcast. Joining us today is going to be Dr. Richard Levak. He's a nationally recognized personality expert. He's been in private practice for over 30 years, working primarily with individuals and couples looking to improve their relationships, work through life transitions, or just find happiness and a greater sense of well-being. Dr. Levak has been a consultant to reality television programs almost from the beginning of that genre, and he's worked on Survivor, Big Brother, Amazing Race, Apprentice, and others. In this role, he made highly accurate predictions about people's behavior based on personality assessments and was able to assist the producers in assembling casts that captured America's interest. He also serves as an expert witness in forensic cases, and he's got a growing practice in organizational consulting, assisting businesses with executive hiring, development, and team building. His clients range from small, privately held companies to large conglomerates. If you would like to speak with Dr. Levak, check out his website at Dr. L-E-V-A-K, that's drlevak.com, or give him a call, 858-755-8717. I know you're going to enjoy. Okay, welcome back to the Finding Center podcast. So glad you're with us. You're going to enjoy our guest today. It's Dr. Richard Levak. How are you?
I'm really good. It's a rainy day here in San Diego, but it feels like England in the middle of the summer. So.
We'll take it, right?
Yeah.
In the middle of the summer. There's so much that I want to talk to you about, but let's start with this. So you were one of the original personality profilers on reality television.
That's right.
All of the big name shows, you were kind of that guy. What was that experience like?
Well, it was really interesting. I was at a conference for forensic psychologists. That means...
Move that up a little bit.
Yeah.
There you go.
A conference where a group of us who worked within the law, where we spoke about criminals' personality, both in defense and in prosecution. And I was presenting, and I was sat there at dinner, and I told a group of psychologists, I've been asked by this new show called Survivor to help evaluate 15 people, put them on an island, basically starve them, film them the whole time, have them voted off, and publicly, in a sense, humiliated. And I'm going to be helping them choose these people. And all of these guys just put their knives and forks down, looked at me, said, "You're insane. What are you doing? This is crazy. You're going to get in trouble." But I thought, how great. I never will get to meet these kinds of people, the kinds of people who applied to go on reality TV show. The first Survivor was in 2000, I think. And I got to meet these amazing people you would never see in a psychological practice because they were mostly bulletproof. So it was
Their personality types were bulletproof.
The personality types were bulletproof. I remember the first Survivor. Many of your viewers will be too young to have seen that. But Rudy, the old crusty Marine, you remember that? And there he was. Everyone had to submit like a 2-minute tape, and Rudy was there, and he looks in the camera and he says, "Well, I've led 50 missions successfully, brought everybody back, and I can do one more mission on this Survivor business." He looked around. That's it. Nothing else. And he was a perfect example of a crusty, black and white, not complicated, somewhat judgmental man of few words. Great personality type. So that was my job. It was to help, using the tools of psychology, to identify interesting personality types and to help the producers come up with an interesting mix of people, because you didn't want everybody the same.
But they couldn't all be Rudys.
They couldn't all be Rudys. They couldn't all be Richard Hatches.
There would maybe be a war on the island or something.
Or there'd be nothing. No one would talk if it was all Rudys, you know, because he was a man of few words.
What are the tools that you use to assess these personalities?
Well, my area of expertise is the science of personality description. So we gave them a personality test, a measure of intelligence, a guesstimate of intelligence, a measure of emotional intelligence. And so you would figure out, well, in personality, when it comes to personality, the best way to think of it is if you're a dog person, you know that dogs are quite similar to one another, and they're very different from cats.
Yes.
But within the dog kingdom, within dogs, you wouldn't try to make a terrier a seeing eye dog.
Okay.
And you wouldn't want to make a a Irish setter a mean guard dog.
Yes.
They just don't have the nature.
Not suitable for that.
They're not, yeah. So it's the same way with personality and measuring personality. You really want to know, is this a high-strung terrier? Is this a agreeable, affable Labrador or Irish setter that's just wagging the moment you walk in? Or is this kind of a suspicious, loyal, but kind of edgy guard dog like a German Shepherd? And humans can be broken down into these various types. And a reality TV show wants good examples of those types and then put them together and see what happens.
And go from there and see what happens. I guess when you're talking about that and you're talking about different personality types as it relates to dog breeds, I'm thinking of, do they come into the world with a personality type, or is that personality type given to them? How does that all work?
That's a great question. If you're a dad or a mom and you have 2 or 3 kids, you know that they come out differently. So you
vastly different.
Vastly different.
Completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. So you may have one child that is easy. They're just easy. They sleep through the night within a few months. They separate once they're a little older. They go to preschool. They don't cry. They're just easy, agreeable. And then you have another child that's fussy. They complain that their socks hurt. I mean,
yes.
What do you do?
There's always something.
Yeah, there's always something. You've got a child that's very extroverted. Hey, hi. Hey, my name's John. What's your name? You know, extroverted. And then you've got these introverted kids who sort of hang back and you have to cajole them. So we are born with basic personality, and then our environment shapes it. So if you're a introverted, slow to warm up child, and then your parents move 4 times while you're still in school, or 5 times, that's tough on you because you're an introvert.
Yes.
And then if you have some eccentricities, like you have a lisp or something, and you're an introvert and a little withdrawn, and you move, those things can make you even more withdrawn, more reluctant to open up. If you're pretty resilient and you're extroverted and you move 4 or 5 times, no big deal. So
because you'll make friends wherever you're at.
Exactly.
You're willing to talk to everybody.
Exactly.
So as a parent, how important is it to you? And we innately understand our children. We know how to talk to them for the most part. And
yes.
How much benefit is there to, though, getting a personality test and then understanding that child's personality or intermarriage personalities and how this individual wants to be spoken to? Is there a lot of benefit to something like that?
Yes. It's an enormous benefit. If I say to you, you say to me, I'm going to go meet with Joe Blow, and it's an important meeting, and I'll say to you, hey, Nick, he's kind of slow to warm up. Don't be bummed out if he doesn't look at you. He's kind of shy. He's actually a warm guy underneath, but it takes him a little while. And he's a little touchy. He takes things personally. Don't joke around with him.
Okay.
Right?
That's huge.
Huge. Boom. Versus if you have no idea what's going on with him. So understanding personality, understanding your kid's personality, knowing how to be the best coach to them because you know who they are. Just like if I walked in and your dog said hi to me and you said to me, oh, it's a rescue dog. He's a little suspicious. Don't pet him for a minute, right?
Yes.
Versus I put my hand out, I get bitten. So in personality, couples, marrying, it's good to know who the person is so you can get the best out of them.
Know your teammate.
Know your teammate.
And
what about what
part of the deal? Yeah, I mean, part of the deal that I think about this, and what you brought me back to was there was one year in my career that in the off season I went to go meet with a sports psychologist. I just thought I was looking for another advantage, and let's advance my career a little bit, and what kind of edges can I have? And one of the things we did immediately was take a personality test.
Wow.
And what I found out from that was I am almost 50% extrovert, 50% introvert.
Perfect.
And how to kind of construct that personality type and my needs into daily life with Jamie and be able to figure out what's best for me. And
the fit. And I'm
Yes.
I'm fascinated. I'd like to hear more about you and your teammates and the various personalities, because that's critical.
you have to have the right personalities. And I thought that was an area that at times we missed on.
Yeah.
As a team, is you needed a certain personality type in a room of offensive linemen or
Yeah.
linebackers or defensive backs or whatever the case may be. You needed a specific personality in that room as a catalyst.
That's
or you
right.
needed somebody to steady the ship. And you needed all these different personalities at the right time. And
Right.
we never had anybody in the facility that could place the correct personalities.
That would create the perfect cast,
Yes.
so to speak.
And that's exactly what it is. You are trying to create a perfect cast.
Yeah, and if you have everybody who's an alpha male, that's not going to work.
Right.
You might, and you know, it's interesting. We're, if you don't mind us ranging all over the
for
place.
sure.
I once worked with a jockey who used to come down to the Del Mar races, and he wanted me to test his son, which I did. And then we talked, and I asked him, I said, when you have a horse that's really a great horse, technically, can that horse not be a good racehorse? He said, oh, absolutely. He said, there are some horses that could be amazing. They just don't have the heart. He said, other horses, they don't look as good. They're not technically as good. But boy, they have heart. And I'd rather ride a horse with heart.
Yes.
And I'm sure that's the same.
Oh, it's the same with athletes for sure.
Yeah.
It is 100% the same with athletes. It's you would, in my opinion, you would rather have the guy with heart that was
Yeah.
going to do anything that it took to be able to get the win. He would sacrifice for his teammates. He would put all the work in, because there's plenty of guys who have the skill, the talent, all the ability that you could ever dream up, but they don't have the intangibles.
Yeah.
We used to have a coach who would say, talent is to work ethic or work ethic is to talent as 10 is to 1. So
Wow.
it's 10 parts work ethic to 1 part talent.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's the kind of guys that you need in your room, and especially in certain positions
Wow.
where it does require a toughness about you.
Right.
Yeah.
And one person can really mess up a team if they have bad
Oh, gosh, yeah.
vibes, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, one
And-
person can make everybody not want to come to work and not be in the meeting room or
Right.
not show up early or just be a complete distraction from what you're looking for. So when it comes to, like, my children,
Yeah.
how important would the personality testing be? I mean, did the jockey find it really useful? Or your clients finding it
Yes.
useful to be able to talk with them?
And sometimes, Nick, you don't need a personality test. You just need to stand back from your kid. And we get caught up in our everyday relationship and we get into patterns with our kids. But if we can stand back with your wife and say, well, wait a minute, my introversion, shyness, extroversion is right in the middle. You are a great extrovert. You're always, when we're ready to leave the party, I'm ready to go. You still I can't find you because you're still talking.
That's right.
Okay, so
Sounds like you know us.
yeah. So if you have a child, one of them will be like her, extroverted. One of them might be a little more introverted. So you just have to get to know, do I have a high-strung kid? Do I have a child that's really sensitive and gets his feelings hurt? Do I have a child who is happy-go-lucky but not very detail-oriented? Do I have a child that's obsessive and worries about what the teacher says? You and your wife can take time and sort of get the personalities straight and observe.
Yes, kind of pattern them out.
And pattern them out and then be a coach for each child. coach them according to who they are.
Yes. So it's not a one-size-fits-all program.
So it's
when
not
we're
a
talking about parenting these kids. I mean, you can't with two. And I grew up in a house. I have an older sister, 18 years older. I got an older brother, 15 months older.
Wow.
And I thought dad and mom were they treated us the same a lot. But we're very, very different humans.
So think about that. I mean,
And I think that was just an older school way of parenting.
right. The older school, which was we treat everyone the same way.
Yes.
But some kids just need, like, I'll have a situation, Nick, where the parents are strict. They see themselves as good, Christian, Republican, strict.
Yes.
No bleeding heart liberals here.
Right.
And they have a son who's a football player, and he's a jock, and he's always testing the rules, and he kind of tells white lies because he's
pushing the boundaries.
pushing the boundaries. But then you have the youngest daughter who is kind of shy, easily kind of hurt by criticism. They are just as strict with her as they are with the boy. And so she stays in her room. Now she's 17. She doesn't get asked out. She doesn't go to parties. And they have made her more introverted and cautious. And
Even
now,
withdrawn from the family.
even a little withdrawn from the family because she needed encouragement. The oldest needed a little holding back. So one size doesn't fit all.
And then how do you as parents, if it's not one size fit all, and you've got two different personalities, and I've got two 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they're completely different.
Right.
But at the same time, we don't, and this is the great challenge of parenting, is letting them feel like it's fair. Like
That's
everything's
right.
fair, where, if you give one child one thing or treat him a certain way, the other child is going, well, that's not how you coach him, or that's not how in my world, sometimes it's, as a dad of two boys who are fighting all the time, it's like, I'm the referee. It's like, that's not how you referee him.
That's
why
right.
why do you treat him different than you treat me?
I think basic rules should be equal. Basic rules. We don't name call. We don't bite. We don't spit. We sit at the table till we finished eating. We don't go on our computers or our phones at dinner. But the way we scold or the way we manage glitches is going to be different. So just like the rules of the game within football are the same for everyone, a good coach will take someone aside, scold them or encourage them somewhat differently, I would imagine.
Yes. Oh, the good ones do.
The good ones.
Yeah, and the good ones also understand which player needs to be scolded in public and which player
There you
needs to
go.
be scolded in private.
There you go.
And
That's a great example.
Yeah, and I think most players like to be positively reinforced in front of everybody, because then it just amplifies everything.
Oh, yeah. To have, yeah.
All right, so let me give you this. Our family's built on 3 tenets.
Yes.
And this is how, so I had a coach, speaking of, who said, if you like yourself and you've been very successful and, people around you seem to like you, he's like, if you agree with the way you were raised, raise your kids to be like you.
Yes.
Which I think there's great things about the way I was raised, but there's also things like we've just spoken about. It's like I would like to modernize that for my boys. And that's kind of the hard thing to do, is modernize something as, growing up.
As personal.
Of what I can model it after, but also modernize it. So we're built on 3 tenets. Mm-hmm. And I always tell my boys, because I want them to know what a Hardwick is.
Yes.
It's like, I think it's very important as a team to have an identity and have structure and some construct that you can work
That's great.
in. So you have to be tough, you have to be hardworking and respectful.
Right.
Anything else you would like to see out of there? Tough, hardworking, respectful.
And how do you define tough?
Toughness, life is hard. And I tell them this all the time. Life is hard. You've got to be hard to match all the adversity that comes at you. You've got to be resilient. When you talk about the bulletproof personality types coming on to Survivor, I want bulletproof kids coming out of this house where you can throw all of life's circumstances at them and they can handle it because they're tough. And I goes to the next one, which is hardworking. I think hard work in whatever it is, not necessarily a career, it doesn't have to be a job focus, but you're holding up your end of the bargain for whatever you've signed up for.
Right.
And like Jamie doesn't have a job, but she works incredibly hard to
Yeah.
make this house what it is and to create the atmosphere that she does. She's always
Right.
holding up her end of the bargain. Not a
Right.
career, not a job.
But her
Really
part, what she
really
what,
thankless, but yeah, she's doing her part. And so,
right.
I think you've got to be tough to be hardworking because, face it, like plenty of days we don't want to wake up. Or
Right.
we do want to
Well,
wake up, but we don't want to get to moving.
Yeah.
We don't want to show up. We don't want to work out. We don't want to maybe
Right.
make the best choices. But tough people, I feel like, make good choices on a more consistent basis. And you got to hardworking for me. Just that's kind of the way I was raised: blue collar, hardworking,
Yeah.
and tough. And then I really think the last one ties them all in because it softens the edges a little bit. It's like,
Respect.
we have to respect everybody. We have to
Right.
respect
Right.
our opponents. We have to respect the competition. We have to respect our family. We have to respect ourselves, I think, as much as anything. And then I'm sure there's some things that you would add to that.
Well, I think those are wonderful qualities. What we want to also be careful of is that I grew up in northern England. My parents were refugees from the Second World War. My father had been in a German prisoner of war camp for 6 years.
Wow.
And my mother had been in a Russian camp. So they came to England after the war, and we were Catholic, and I went to all-boys Catholic school, and everything was about following the rules, avoiding hell, not committing a sin. Suffering was always seen as good for you.
Yes.
And, I would often say to my parents, I don't get this. Christmas is one day, and and Advent, is it Advent or, yeah, Advent is like 3 weeks of suffering. Christmas is one day and it's gone. So we have to also be careful that we don't have to be quite as harsh. We can say, we want you to be tough, and what toughness means is that you enjoy life and you enjoy being giving to others, and when things go wrong, you're able to see the positives. I mean, that in a way is resilience.
Yes.
And
and I think that's a great point that you bring up. And I think I got lucky because in my head, everything's got a silver lining. Everything naturally, and I don't know how it got there, or maybe if it's
you
just
were
me.
a great athlete. You're very lucky. You're well-built, tall, you're handsome, you're smart, and you were a great athlete.
Yeah.
I mean,
So everything kind of just, I got lucky.
you got lucky.
I got lucky.
You got
Yeah,
lucky.
there's-
I mean, if, I have a patient, wonderful guy. I love the guy, and I'll disguise it so there's no way anyone, but he's short. He's not that attractive. He's not very good at sports. And yet he's a lovely, smart human being. But in America, he doesn't walk in and take over a room,
Yes.
which you can do just by the way you look.
Yes.
So we have to be kind of lucky, and in a way, with resilience and charisma, we can make the most of what we're given.
I got you. So I read this really interesting article recently in the Atlantic, and it was about boys becoming men.
Yes.
And it kind of comes back to what you were talking about, and the author of the article interviewed a bunch of athletes. They were high school kids going to college, and they were all most of them were athletes, and then there was also college kids in there who were athletes, and it was about becoming a man.
Yes.
And a lot of it was about that masculinity in general has been viewed to be a shrinking thing, where it comes back
Yes.
to, are you tall? Are you good looking? Are you a good athlete?
Yes.
And that kind of speaks to manhood.
Yes.
Right? Which it seems so wrong. I mean, you talk about the guy that you see that's got all these great qualities other than being tall and striking and a good athlete.
Right.
Like, how hard is it to take just and I don't want to say a normal human, but a non-athlete and to help them find manhood? Is it more difficult?
Well, it's interesting because our view of manhood is changing. I mean, it wasn't so long ago that, real men didn't cry and real men didn't show emotion. I mean, certainly the way I grew up as a kid is if you fell, your dad would say, now don't, remember the soldiers in the war, don't cry.
Suck it up.
Suck it up.
Yes.
And that had its downside because men were insensitive. Men couldn't show emotion. Men couldn't be affectionate that easily. So our view of manhood is changing, and we're allowing men to be more metrosexual, not just all alpha male,
Right.
but softer.
Not just 1950s male.
Not just 1950s male. So a lot of young men are confused about what it's like to be a male. If you look at the figures of kids going to college, there's a preponderance of young women going. Young men are pretty troubled in our society. They're not going to college as often. I'm seeing a lot of young men, 19, 20, sitting in the basement of their parents' house, playing video games till 3 a.m, sleeping till noon, and their parents can't get them moving. So I think we're going through a transition with young men and manhood and what it really means to be a man. And how do you define yourself and get a sense of pride in who you are? I think we're in flux there.
Okay. And what do you think it is? I mean, why are you seeing more boys that are sitting at 19 years old and in the basement playing the video games and not striving? What is that?
Yeah, what is
and
that?
How can we mitigate that maybe earlier in childhood to try to stay away from that as we get older?
It's a great question, Nick, and I'd love to know your off the cuff thoughts. I think that our school system has become boring, and the curriculum have become boring for young men who have become addicted to video games. The
reward system of going to school is not what it is when they're at home playing video games. They're not getting the thrill.
They're not getting the thrill. Learning is slow. It's a teacher. It's traditional. I don't really know, but there's a lot of young men turned off to college and school and say they hate school. And I just wonder if we have to find a more exciting way to teach.
Yeah, that is interesting, because one thing that even a lot of corporations, and you work with them, is what a lot of corporations are doing, what a lot of our apps are doing, it's a reward-based system.
That's right.
They're gamifying everything, is turning into a game, except school, which is kind of a clunky, outdated system where we're still memorizing facts when we can just pick up our phones and everything's right here. We don't need to memorize the facts anymore. So it is really interesting. And boys, just watching them. I mean, I don't have girls. I would love to have one, but we're out of that game. I can't risk a third boy.
Yeah.
Boys just I can't do it. I can't do it to myself. I can't do it to Jamie. Yeah.
I know.
Although I think the boys would have fun with a third.
Yeah.
Throw a little one in the mix.
But you're right. Boys are more difficult to manage than girls.
Well, they're totally wired different.
They're wired differently.
Especially when they're younger.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm sure girls have their challenges.
When
for sure,
the girls become a nightmare when they're 16.
Yes.
And they're going out with their friends, and you say, my daughter, "Hey, Rachel, are you putting any pants on? That's a blouse." "Dad, that's a dress." "Oh my God." Or when there's a party bus arrives and it's your girl. So boys are easier 16 to 19.
Yes.
If you're not worried about all the sexual stuff.
Yeah.
But early on, boys are harder.
Yeah, boys, they're just wired. My young one, Teddy's coursing with energy all the time. He comes up, and I guess this is part of the personality. He's standing there talking to me, looking like he's hooked up to an electrical outlet. And he just talks to me like this, and he's always squirming around.
Can you imagine sitting in school all day listening to a teacher?
Oh, it'd be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for them it'd be torturous.
Right.
Yeah,
right. And then the video games goose them up, and everything else is boring.
Yes. That's really, that is a really interesting concept. We were talking about the dad saying, "Suck it up. Don't cry.
Be a man.
Be a man." It's a really hard process. It's like, I do want my boys to be tough, and I want them to be resilient.
What does tough mean?
That's a great question.
What does tough mean?
I think I want them to be physically tough. I want them to be, and this is just me having been an athlete and having been on a football field and beat the crap out of my body. And there was always that, don't show emotions. And in the sports world, I have always felt that the team or the individual that controlled their emotions the best was going to win more often than not. If talent and preparation were equal, if you controlled your emotion better than your opponent, you were going to have the chance to win. So when I'm parenting them and I find them with the inability, and of course they're 8 and 6, of course they have the inability to control it, but I want that messaging to be there is you have to be able to control your emotions. And I always see it playing out on the sports field because life is amplified in sports. Like every football season was like 5 years of regular human life. I mean, with the ups and downs that we got in one game, let alone a season, was just unbelievable. You would go from the highest of highs, scoring a touchdown, to fumbling a ball, and you're the loser on the field, and there were so many things in there. I want them to be able to handle in its life's ups and downs, but I want them to be able to control their emotions, not have emotions, but to be able to control them. And so that to me is tough, physically tough. And they're both athletic kids, and I see them on the field, and I know the dangers of being out there. I've had my foot facing the wrong direction. I dislocated my midfoot and needed to plate 7 screws and 3 wires. But on the field, you can't cry. There's no.
That's right.
There's no crying.
That's right.
You're not even to be yelling in pain. You're just to sit there and take it.
Wow.
And so for me, when I say toughness, it's controlling the emotions, although they're there.
Yeah.
And not expressing pain if pain is there. Which I don't know if that's an even healthy outlook for me to have, but that's the one that my life's been.
That's right.
It's been given to me.
That's a very interesting perspective. I think, look, the research shows that children who are able to control their impulses do better in life.
And probably adults too.
Yes. If, many people have heard of the experiment where you and I are sitting and there's a child, I'm sitting with the child and somebody brings in a plate of warm chocolate chip cookies and puts them down here. And I say to the child, by the way, you can have a cookie while I'm gone, but if you wait till I get back, you can have 2. And the children who wait for the 2, it predicts their SAT scores and their general success in adulthood. Now, you'll see the kid, going over, smelling, looking, but not eating. And then you see the kid who finally breaks down and eats it. The point you're making is toughness maybe is discipline. You recognize your emotions. You say, yes, I'm angry. Yes, I'm humiliated. Yes, I'm in incredible pain. But I don't have to act on it impulsively. That the real secret in life is self-discipline. And the other secret is to recognize your emotions. If I recognize that I'm really jealous of you, then maybe I won't make snide comments to you. If I recognize that my feelings are hurt because my buddy didn't invite me somewhere and invited somebody else, I can take my emotions and work with them. But if I don't know what I'm feeling, I can act on my impulses, and that's not good. So if you mean toughness as teaching kids to recognize emotion, to be able to verbalize that for themselves, yes, I'm angry, yes, I'm upset, and then to have the discipline to manage those emotions, I think that's a great thing to teach kids.
How can we get better at helping them recognize their emotions and then express that they understand their emotions and what they're going through, which To me, we talk about this all the time at home, is you have to be able to control your impulses. So when you're talking about impulse control, that's something that we talk about all the time.
Right.
And we really, so we do want to get better at impulse
and you
control.
you must have had to do that as an athlete.
Oh, yes.
Constantly.
Oh, yes. And I do think about impulse control because we used to get these impact concussion tests. So it was a baseline test, and impulse control was a big part of that. So in my head, impulse is kind of a driving factor. And also, you're right. You have the impulse that somebody wronged you on the field. Well, I want to go out and I want to inflict some pain on you, but I can't because it's a 15-yard penalty.
Right.
And so it is controlling. You're right. That is about controlling the impulses.
And you'll see that on the football field where some athlete just flares up and can't control his impulses.
Which is kind of the great challenge, I find, because the guys who are drawn to athletics are also the ones who probably more often than not are the kids that have difficulties with impulse control.
Right.
Because they are the
high energy alpha males who love to compete, love to win, throw their rackets when they miss a ball. Yeah. So
the John McEnroes of the world. Yes.
And I think a great coach, just like a great parent, takes those personality types and helps them discipline their emotions. I know you're angry. You're very angry. You're talking to your 9-year-old son. I don't blame you. Of course I'd be angry. No, you can't hit. I know your brother took your dessert, but you can't bash him over the head. That is not allowed. Tell him how angry you are. And the other thing is, as parents, if you and your wife, nobody teaches emotional problem solving.
Nobody
teaches
emotional.
emotional.
This is what we need to be teaching in schools.
We need to be teaching, yes. So you teach, driver's ed. We teach how to get through life with various kinds of, by teaching information. But to teach emotional problem solving, look, when your feelings are hurt, you have a tendency to want to judge the other person as bad. You want to say, well, you're selfish, rather than just say my feelings are hurt. And to negotiate the conflict, to talk about it. And if you as a couple can do that, as a husband and wife or partners, you can publicly, in front of your kids, negotiate a conflict. So people say you shouldn't argue in front of your kids. Of course you should. What you shouldn't do is argue badly in front of kids.
Okay. Show them the way to manage it.
Right.
Yes.
Because
and what is the proper way to have a settle conflict?
Well, the first thing is to admit, which we have trouble doing, that I'm angry.
Yeah.
I'm not angry. No.
Yeah. Everybody said that.
Yeah.
I'm not mad. Well, why are you raising your voice?
That's right.
Yeah, your tone's changing.
But what happens in a conflict is we tend to judge and blame. It's a very natural human process
to go on the aggression.
Yes,
the aggressive side.
Right,
of things.
And because we're humans, we don't immediately hit, but we hit with words. So let's say you and I had an argument. Let's say you said to me, "Meet me at the house at 11." I think you said, "Meet me at the house at 10:30." We now have a problem. We're late, and you go, "Dude, I told you at 11. You never listen." And I'll say, wait a minute, I don't listen. What about you? Do you remember 2 weeks ago I told you that? You weren't listening then. So we devolve into judgment and blame. You don't listen. Well, I listen. You don't. Well, you're so unreliable. Well, you're worse. Instead of saying, you frustrated me, you scared me, instead of talking about how I'm feeling, I blame you.
And that's a protective mechanism that we use?
It's an impulse.
It's an impulse.
Yeah. So anger, I wonder if this is too complex or boring.
No.
Okay. So there are basically 4 stages to anger.
Okay.
The first is something happens that scares me, frustrates what I want, or causes me pain. Only 3 things cause anger: fear, frustration of want, or pain. If all 3 things happen, or one happens, we get a rush of adrenaline. That's the second stage.
Okay.
The third stage is judgment. Judgment. So
And what are we judging?
we judge the thing or person that's caused us pain or anger.
And that happens, I would
Pain
imagine,
or fear.
the judgment happens probably at times non-logically.
Exactly.
Just happens very quickly. You've got the adrenaline rushing through you, and
you
you've gotta
label.
you've got to make a quick judgment.
Exactly. So, for example, stupid example, I'm in a hurry, I'm driving, and someone's in my way, and I'm frustrated, and I'm anxious because I'm late, and I then use a slur against, oh, damn women drivers, or darn Asian drivers.
Sure.
I judge.
Yes.
And what happens in a relationship, if I judge you, you judge me back. Judgment leads to counter-judgment. And then the last stage of anger is retaliation. I retaliate against you, you retaliate against me. So whenever I hear someone, and I'll finish this piece, whenever I hear someone say, oh God, she's so selfish, judgment, I say, how does she frustrate what you want? How does she cause you pain? And then the person, and that way you can see it's going backwards from those stages of anger. I don't know if that made any sense.
Oh, that 100% makes sense.
And
yeah.
so whenever someone says, well, you're so selfish, I'll go, well, what do I do that causes you frustration? I get to the problem so we can problem solve rather than just words and judging each other.
Yes, and retaliation.
And retaliation.
Kind of back and forth, and you do this. Well, you always do this.
There you go. There you go.
kind
That's
of
a judgment.
That's kind of a common
Yeah.
thing. Well, you always do this, the broad strokes. It said, okay, I like that. What is it? Frustration of want.
Yes. What is it you want you're not getting?
Yes.
So when I'm seeing a couple in marital therapy, when they're sitting there, and he says, oh, she never initiates something, she never initiates sex. I'll go, really, never, not once? Well, maybe once. Great. So
once in 32 years.
And so then I want you, and I'll say to the husband, these are my words. I want you to tell her. I want you to say to her, because you don't initiate sex, is this a child podcast? Oh, no, I can talk about this.
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
I want you to say to her, it really hurts my feelings and makes me feel rejected that you don't initiate sex. That's much better than saying you're so frigid and cold.
Yes. Yeah, a lot better. Yeah.
When you bring
it puts you back to you.
When it's me, when I talk about, Nick, that really hurts my feelings. Nick, that frustrates me so badly when you do that. Nick, you scare me when you do that. You can hear that versus me saying, you're so damn selfish, man. It's always about you. Those are judgments that lead to counter judgments.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it's humanizing yourself to the other person in the argument.
That's a great way to put it.
Making yourself vulnerable.
That's a
to the
perfect way to put it.
Yeah, where you're saying, I'm open up. I realize that this is an issue that I have.
Yeah.
Maybe, and you're kind of allowing them to help you.
You're right. You elicit empathy.
Maybe help me out with this.
Yes.
And I know this is a stupid thing, but I like to be talked to in this manner. So if you don't mind, when you want something, because it would help me out, it's just the way my head works. Would you mind asking me
that way?
This way,
Nick, that's perfect, man. You must have a good marriage.
we do have a good marriage.
Yeah.
We talk a lot. We're very open. Of course, it's always a work in progress. How do we recognize our emotions? To go back even further than
that's
that,
a great question.
How do we get, I guess, better at recognizing our emotions?
That's a great question.
Because they're so elusive. They
sweep over us.
They sweep over us. They take us, but at times there's also like you think you're feeling one thing for a reason, but you
Yeah.
realize like a week or two later that it was really something else, that it
Right.
takes kind of a long time to back into some of, I guess, the origins of our emotions. How do we even,
No,
how can we recognize those quicker?
that is a great question that we may sometimes go, gosh, that made me really angry and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I was snarky later or something. I think that taking time daily, or if we get very busy and very stressed, that's when our emotions can leak out and take us by surprise. Whoops! Why did I just say that? Or God, that was kind of mean of me. Why did I do that? If we catch ourselves doing that, for us to stop and stand back and say, wait a minute, I must be stressed. I'm
Yes.
being kind of
I had that happen last night.
What
Yeah,
do you-
I was sitting on the couch and my son was squirming around. I was like, would you sit still, please? And he
Right.
goes, you're just mad.
He has good emotional intelligence.
He knows. And I don't, it was brilliant by him. And I was like, you're right. I'm sorry.
Wow, what a perfect interaction,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I could never imagine saying that to my dad. Like, God, you're just grumpy, What? That would
Yeah,
be.
I'm not grumpy. No, but
Well,
he
that
was
would
right.
be. Yeah, he was right.
Yeah, he was right. I was
So
just
you're
mad.
doing a good job of teaching emotion, because he labeled yours accurately.
I hope so. I do hope so. And I had a moment yesterday. My mom's sick, and I got off the phone with her on FaceTime, and I just started crying, and my kids were there. I was just felt really bad.
Yeah, because she's
She's getting older and she's sick, and I felt really bad, and I just started weeping in front of my boys, and
that was good for them.
I guess it was, and they just had never really seen it. And I can only remember twice in my whole life ever seeing my dad cry.
Right, and what was that like? Did that scare you?
When I saw him cry, I
Yeah.
just started crying immediately because, and I really get affected, not when women cry, but when men cry. That's a really hard thing for me to see, and
it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
he's just, and I guess in my head and the way that I grew up, it's like something must really be wrong.
Right,
if you're going to allow, or if you can't control it.
Right.
So it kind of comes back to that whole
toughness
that whole
thing.
beginning process.
Yeah. I think younger men don't even think twice about crying. They do it, and I don't know. Do you have much contact with young athletes, for playing football?
Not as much.
No.
Not as much now. Yeah, like high school kids.
Yeah,
yes.
or professional football
Yeah,
players.
so still in touch with those guys.
And you think, is it still the norm that men don't cry?
In that world, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah, it's
You're the toughest of
you're
the gladiators.
Yeah, you're talking about the alpha males of alpha males.
Of alpha
and they're
male.
not all alphas, but
mostly.
yes, and the ones that aren't are trying to act like they are.
Yeah, right.
And so they're kind of not. So
would it be scary sometimes on the football field?
Oh hell, every time. It's like I was scared to death.
Because you really can get hurt.
Yeah. Your body knows that. And not to mention you can get hurt, but you can get emotionally hurt. You can be humiliated. You could get your ass kicked. I mean,
so could you sleep before a game?
I could. I was really good at compartmentalizing, but
yeah, that's a good quality.
Really good at compartmentalizing. So be able to put it down and just block it out.
Yeah,
and have that kind of ability to do that. But every game before the game, I would throw up. Every single game.
Wow.
Mine's maybe a handful of games that at the end of my career where I said, okay, I know I'm going to live. Everything's going to be fine. Every single game. And it was violent throw-ups. There's just an overwhelming amount of anxiety, performance anxiety.
Yeah.
The other part was knowing how much work it was going to be. It was just a massive amount of work. It's it's physically just exhausting. I mean, trying to move a 300-pound stone that doesn't want to be moved for 3 hours on it's physically, that's a lot of it was that. And then the other thing is you see this guy come onto the field, and some of these guys that I was playing were 400 pounds. I mean, it's like fighting a small bear.
Yeah, it's
right?
like
so
like
I
a
see
little
a guy, and I'm like, hell, he could knock my head off my shoulders if he really had at it. And so there's fear of that. There's fear of, being a laughing stock on Monday Night Football, or making a mistake, or getting somebody hurt, or letting your teammates down, or
oh my God.
I mean, there's so much that went into it. So there's
wow.
there was tons of fear. It was terrifying. But you, at the same time, had to act like you weren't.
Of course.
Everything's fine here.
Right. You had to stay very focused. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and be poised and even keel even after I threw up. And like it became a thing on our team. It was like, okay, Nick's ready to play. He threw up.
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
It was awful. Yeah, so come back to this, because talk about the emotions with the kids and crying in front of them and everything. There's this thought that, and I read this in that article about boys to men, is that men don't have great relationships with other men.
Yeah.
They don't have great, solid friendships a lot of times, or struggle to find great relationships with other men.
Yeah.
Because they can't talk to their dad about their emotions. And there's that sense. Does not having a great open dialogue with your dad lead to perhaps later in life struggles to find and make friends? So I know for me, I'm much better at being around women than I am around men.
Yeah.
And and being a bro. I'm way better. And that's Jamie's my best friend. Yeah. And part of it's because I'm not really that good at being friends with men. Yeah. Which is odd, having spent a lot of life in the locker room.
In the locker room, right. It's interesting. I actually am very comfortable with women also. The bro vibe, it's interesting. I don't actually know, but it's an interesting point you're making. I think for someone like you, you're an elite athlete, and you're also a nice guy, sensitive. So the kind of locker room banter and teasing and competitiveness might not be that much fun. I don't know.
Right. I find women are more willing to get deeper quicker.
Yeah. I think that's exactly right. And it is hard to make good male friends. It is hard.
What is that? Why?
I'm not sure. Maybe because men are more uptight about being vulnerable, it's like when you go in the men's toilets, and there's a big line, and everybody
spits in the urinal.
Everybody spits in the urinal, don't they?
Every time.
Is that the most fun? And it's almost like they're going. And it's hard for me to do what I need to do in that environment. I don't know if this should be on the podcast.
Oh, this will definitely be on the podcast. So come back to, because I talked a little bit about the anxiety before a game, but it's a thing that I hear popping up all the time with friends, family members. Everybody's talking about anxiety. Yeah. Is it becoming more common? Are we a more anxious bunch, or where's that coming from?
It's an interesting thing. Anxiety is a very human emotion. It's a very useful emotion. If you go to Africa, or you go to somewhere where there's a herd of animals and they're shy animals, you get close and the animals on the edge spook, and then everybody runs, right? Yeah. Anxiety alerts you that there's danger. So you're much better off being more anxious, because you will avoid all sorts of dangers, many of which you didn't need to, but it's better for your survival than having no anxiety. Do you remember that guy who climbs free
Alex Honnold. Free
solo.
Yes. That's exactly my thought too.
They put him through a fMRI, magnetic resonance imaging, and they found that the part of the brain that kicks off when you're anxious was basically shut down.
Which allows him to do that.
which allowed him to do that.
Because nobody
In
with
the-
probably a normally functioning brain would do that, would even attempt it.
No, right.
Because
Now,
their fear response, their
they see reality.
Yes.
This is dangerous.
Yes.
And so I think that anxiety is common for humans to experience. Only sociopaths don't experience anxiety.
Gotcha.
They are able to do terrible things and not feel anxiety. And they need adrenaline to feel. And they need, in a way, cruelty or exploitation to feel anything.
Gotcha.
But why is anxiety increasing? I think our world is changing very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And many people feel unease. Our political situation, whether you're Republican or Democrat, it is highly toxic compared to where it was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yes.
And the economy is changing. It's booming, but not everybody
gets to participate in that.
Not everybody.
Yeah.
So I think our world is much more anxious, and we are experiencing it. You know, there's so much competition. Think about the craziness of what people with money have done to get their kids into college.
Yeah. With the scandals that we've just seen.
800,000 to get a kid into 4 kids into USC or 3
Right.
kids.
And a lot to just tell their friends that my kid goes to USC or my kid goes to Texas or wherever the other schools
But
that were
think
involved.
of the anxiety that everybody has about getting a place in our society
Sure.
and not being left out.
Yes.
And young men afraid of being judged as Me Too. Like what we're finding that young men are not having sex like they used to.
They're abstaining.
They're abstaining.
For that reason, to not get caught up in anything.
Well, they're anxious. They're anxious about being too forward. They don't know the rules of the game. There's always porno, which fills a need, which wasn't there when I was growing up.
I tell you, as a parent, this whole Me Too era that we're in is terrifying. Especially
for
with
young men.
Especially with boys. And
Yeah.
I hear Jamie, my wife, talking all the time to the boys about and not so direct about, hey, you can't do this, but she does let them know as you get older, and if you talk that way, if you share images, there's all that thing. It's like there are severe consequences.
So
that
think
people are
about the
paying.
anxiety. When you were growing up, you could go and play in the backyard or play in the street, play football.
Oh, my goodness.
You would come home when it was dark.
Yes.
You could bicycle around. And today, kids can't be out. Their parents are, afraid to let them walk to school.
Oh, yeah.
And
I had a lady stop me when we were out biking the other day with my kids because they were 2 blocks in front of me.
Right.
And she's like, is everything okay? And I'm like, well, yeah. What do you mean? Is everything okay? Of course everything's okay.
So there's an
Like
example
we're playing
of
in our
anxiety.
neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's anxiety, right?
Yes.
And or putting that on our kids, which is whatever you do, don't do this, don't do that. And now the whole issue of, I think teaching respect is very important, but that great line where you can be spontaneous, because we're going to have a whole generation of kids that don't know how to flirt and don't know how to
face to face.
Right.
Yes.
Don't know how to flirt and don't know how to court because, okay, I'm not going there. I don't want to be in trouble.
What aspects of masculinity should we be promoting? How do we teach that?
That's a great question. I think that we will evolve. When
hopefully by the time my kids are of age.
Yeah, that's right.
We switch gears here in the next 6, 8, 10 years.
Well, when I was growing up, I know my mother probably never enjoyed sex. I'm sure of it.
Okay.
And life was about duty, hard work, discipline, and very little pleasure. And now, and certainly when I was growing up, the Catholic schoolgirls who went to St. Mary's were untouchable. And that's to 18. And we were taught that the model of the woman was the Virgin Mary. and then you had to be as pure as she. So sexuality was very kind of limited and not about pleasure, more about procreation, and girls were seen as less sexual. Well, today, sexuality is much bigger, and women are more interested in their own pleasure than, and the idea of who is a male and who is a female is changing. You look at women ultimate fighters. I mean, right?
Yeah, I went and watched a live fight this past weekend.
You know, the idea of two women fighting, beating each other's faces up would have been horrific in the 50s.
That would have been appalling.
Appalling.
Yeah.
Now we have it. Those women are more on the spectrum of male-female balanced, right?
Okay.
And then you've got men.
So we even have different kind of terms for that.
Yes. So the whole issue of maleness and femaleness is evolving.
Yeah.
That we are far more fluid than we once thought. Men are not just warriors and women are not just homemakers. You can now have CEO women who are ballsy and competitive and driven, and men who are soft and into art without necessarily being gay, and into opera and clothes.
And stay home.
And stay
take
home.
Care of the kids. Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So it's a fluid time for male-female identity.
So I want to bring it back before we get going. It's this kind of thought process as a parent is the new, I guess, way of thinking is I'm going to let my kid lead and they're going to be able to choose and they can do whatever they want. But then there's also, like, as parents, we've got this really awesome perspective looking at our children and seeing their personality types and going, but you're really a better fit over here than you are over here.
Yes.
There's that kind of fine line between saying, I don't think you should play this sport. Maybe you should look into acting.
Exactly.
Or maybe you should start looking in this direction. How do we do that fine dance?
And I think that if we're not invested, there's a friend of mine who's was the shoulder surgeon for the Padres.
Okay.
Heinz Henneke, and he was telling me, there's a tragedy for the near elite kid. He said, I see it where you've got a kid who's a great football player, but he's not going to go to the professional.
Right.
He's near elite. Now, anybody who is almost an elite, that's pretty cool. But Heinz was telling me that he'll get these kids in there, and the dad is saying, I want that shoulder repaired. He's going to play. I want him to get a scholarship to college.
Just a little more work, and he can be there.
Exactly. And so now the kid is feeling, I hate football. I don't want to play anymore. Yeah. And so there's an example of a parent whose vision for the kid is not conforming to who the kid is. That we as coaches, we parents as coaches, have to gently, just like when we coach our dog, no, good boy, no, over here. We have to coach our kids in a direction that we think is a good fit for their personality. It's a gift we can give them, rather than push them to what we would like them to be.
And that's a kind of a fear for me that I have raising the boys, and they know what I did for a living.
Yeah.
And they're really into it, especially as they get to meet some of the current players and they get autographs, and like people still ask for pictures and autographs. And they're like, that looks really cool. I guess as a dad like that, how do I know, and I'm sure all dads in some respect go through the same thing. It's like, how do I know that they're doing it for them and not for me? That they're choosing whatever they're into because, and maybe it's a natural, healthy aspect.
I think it's a natural, healthy aspect. In my experience, when a young man comes in and he's a doctor, and I'll say, I take a history, and he said, oh, yeah, well, what did your dad do? Oh, my dad was the doctor in town. And, he tells you they had a great life. Dad was well respected. He was the country doctor or the village, the town doctor, They had plenty of money. They took vacations. Dad played golf on a Wednesday. Life worked.
Yes.
I want to do what he did.
It makes sense.
It worked.
Yes.
You know, it's when you look at your parents and you go, you know what I did when I was a kid. By 14, I wanted no information from my dad or my mom. I thought that the whole view of life was wrong, and I wanted nothing to do with it. So there was nothing they could teach me because I discounted it. My siblings all bought in to the family way, and they suffered in various ways because of it. So if the child sees your life works, they will look for a wife, much like their mother. That worked. Mom and dad were happy. You know, my dad, if they're looking at you, they still hold hands. They love each other. They're affectionate. So that imprints on a kid, here's what worked, and I'm fine with repeating it.
Love it. Dr. Richard Levak, great work. Thank
Great.
you so much.
Very cool, Nick.
Where can people find you?
Well, I do have a website, but it's
drlevak.com.
drlevak at drlevak.com.
Okay, perfect.
It's very, very cool talking to you, Nick.
Great work. Thank
All
you.
right.
I learned so much,
All right,
and I'll
great.
put it into practice right when we get done here.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Super excited about a new sponsor for our show. Style is changing, formal wear is out, and the t-shirt is in. True Classic Tees, they're my favorite. I'm wearing it right now. So soft, it feels really good, and it fits really well too. It's based in LA, t-shirt company that's on the rise. T-shirts are soft, they hold up in the wash, they're super versatile. You can wear them out, you can wear them to work or around the house, or I guess those things are one and the same these days. And we're going to be doing a lot of that. And the best part, they're super cheap, only $15. And now you can get them for even less. Go to trueclassictees.com. Use the code BLEAV. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV for 20% off. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV at trueclassictees.com.